the adjourned meeting of the Planning Commission. And can we have a roll call, please?
Commissioner Carapet, Chair Carapet,
Here.
sorry. Commissioner Lasky,
Here.
Commissioner Burke,
Here.
Commissioner Hart,
Here.
Director Evanson, Associate Sammy Malakaman, and I'm Nancy Miller. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to go right to the public hearing. And I just wanted to make a few comments, kind of where I saw we left off last time, and then pick up from there, just so we're kind of all on the same page. So the questions that I made note of were concerns and questions regarding windows on the north and south side of the property, regarding maybe opaque windows, celestial windows, staircases on the north and south side, questions if the hot tub could be relocated, and also question if potentially the second story could have a lower slope of the roof. And so with that, I believe Commissioner Lasky needs to ask her questions of the architect and applicant.
I had one question for you, David. I wanted to know, what is the reason that the garage is attached to the house when there's really no entrance from the garage to the house? What's, I mean, you could put,
For a couple reasons. One of them is let's say it's 4 feet apart. It's just an awkward space. It's kind of for rats and it'd be left over, and we need the parking in front of the space too. So it's all kind of logically lined up.
so instead of moving it to the back of the lot and having maybe parking next to it, you have it attached to the house. So there's no way of having an entrance from the garage into the house.
At this juncture, yes.
Okay. That's my only question for
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, and then I didn't finish my questions. So just, I'm sorry, your answer to Marcia regarding the garage. You said that you had to leave the space behind the garage for a parking space? Is that what I heard you say?
The main reason is we connected, in architecture, it's kind of awkward to have a 3 to 4 foot space between a garage and a house. That nothing goes on good. So we compressed it and made more open space on the garage side.
Oh, okay, all right, I misunderstood that.
Okay.
Okay, and then I think most of my questions have been answered, but I did want to ask, because no one has asked directly, why the applicant removed the trees and the extra vegetation from the easement side without permit.
Yeah, that's
Sure.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. I thought I was doing a good thing. Cleaning up the alley because it was a pest control use as well. But now, you're broken. So, no intention. Or meant anything to anybody. So it was a mistake, and I'll take the mistake.
Okay, and that includes the trees on the property?
The one plum tree that was taken by mistake by the tree company, and there's been an email issued by the tree company, they made that mistake. They dove on the sword on that one. That was not me, that was them.
Okay,
I didn't pay for it, didn't tell them to do it. We have a letter, Barry has it, that the tree company made that mistake.
okay, great.
That was not me.
Great, thank you. David, I have one more question. When I look at, well, the front of the application, there's another photo in here. You have a white fence in front of the house. So when you look at it, it's a lot of white. And I think on that side of Cove Road, all of the houses have like natural wood
Yeah,
And you connect it to natural wood on the side, but yet the natural wood on the side comes up.
that's part of our alteration. We're looking at that very closely for the
Okay.
next scheme.
Okay, I was going to ask if that was something you could consider changing. Okay.
Those definitely are.
Okay, great. And then I just want to ask if any other commissioner had any other further questions before we open the public meeting? Okay.
I'd also like Jenny Daly to speak. We kind of got confused in the middle last time because.
That's okay. Everything was confused.
Like Jenny to speak, please. Thank you so much.
Hi. What's the effort going on here? Thank you all for coming back again this evening. Appreciate this. My name is Jennifer Daly, and that's my husband, Peter, and we are the owners of 31 Cove. I feel incredibly fortunate to have been born and raised in Tiburon. My parents built their house in 1967, and I've been here ever since. And now my kids are here, and my husband's family is here, and we're not leaving. We're here for the long haul. We are building this home just for the two of us, just Peter and I. And our living area, including our bedroom, is on the main floor. The second floor are 2 extra bedrooms for someday, maybe I'll have grandchildren to come visit. Having lived in this tight-knit community, we completely understand the sensitivity to change. We took our neighbors in the town into account to design this house that fits within the Lagoon neighborhood. Before we even submitted the plans to the city, we met with Barry and Roberta and listened to their concerns and made changes to our initial design. Once we submitted the plans, Roberta and Barry asked to meet with our architects to hear their concerns once again. We changed the design. Peter met Barry and Roberta once again to show those changes. Once the story poles were up, we reached out to every neighbor on Cove Road. We met with several of them and received many positive feedback, letters, and comments on the beautiful design. We believe we have submitted plans for a beautiful home that is fully compliant and meets with all the restrictions and conditions of the town of Belvedere. Appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, with that, I'd like to open the public comment period. And does anyone wish to speak regarding this item? Please step to the podium, state your name.
My name is Karina Osterhout. I'm at 29 Cove Road. I have a privacy issue. You mentioned north windows. I think I'm the south window then. There's 3 windows from which you can see directly into a bedroom of mine. Below it is that infamous hot tub, which of course would be nice if it'll be removed, but also Mr. Daly told me that those windows, which I'm concerned about, could be cut in half. That's my issues.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak?
I don't want to touch any buttons here. Hi, Roberta McMullen, 33 Cove Road. Good evening. I'd like to thank everyone for their time serving on the commission. Thank you. It's a lot of work. Okay, I hope I can get through this. The responsibility of an architect is not only to their client, but to adjoining property owners and the community, especially when the property is as sensitive as this one. Narrow setbacks, height restrictions, and FEMA guidelines. One choice in this case, an almost 15-foot cathedral ceiling, results in the highest point of the design being placed over our deck and yard, and has created dire consequences for us. Sunlight. Margot, my gardener, saw the story poles the other day. Looking up at that 2-story mass, he said, "Your roses, your lawn, Roberta, what's going to happen here?" This is crazy. I have planted and nurtured every rose, boxwood, and tree on this property for 30 years. The lack of sunlight is going to severely hurt our plants and lawn. If the mass of this building, this two-story structure, were moved forward, as stated in the staff report, this wouldn't have to happen. Privacy. Oxford Dictionary defines privacy as the condition of being free from being observed or disturbed by other people. Because of the proposed mass and windows and door, we are completely exposed. We are talking about almost every room in our home: family room, living room, bedroom, and master bedroom. That's the bulk of our house. Dining room and an extra room elsewhere in a kitchen. We spend most of our time going from the kitchen to the family room to having lunch on the deck and enjoying our roses with a glass of wine. It's all we really have, the deck and the rest of those rooms. Now there might be a looming mass over our heads with windows above us and a noisy stair and a door. Sitting on our deck, enjoying our home, we will no longer be free from the feeling of being observed, no matter if anyone is there or not. Our bedroom and Barry's pillow is 12 steps from the proposed door and stairs. Barry takes an afternoon nap, but is awakened and disturbed by other people going up the stair and closing a door. This is loss of privacy. Has anyone in this room heard a door close silently? It does not exist. A property has 4 sides, and the north side has ended up with all the problems.
Your time is up.
This- sorry.
If there's someone who would like to donate their time to let her finish. Yeah, you can start 3 minutes. Anne gave you her 3 minutes.
Okay, property has 4 sides and the north side has ended up with all the problems. This design is insensitive and gives absolutely no regard for our situation. At some point, I know the neighbors will end up with a beautiful home, and I wish them well going forward.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Barry McMullen. My wife Roberta and I own the home at 33 Cove Road. We've been there 33 years. We have submitted our list of concerns to planning, and I will quickly focus on some of the top concerns. Belvedere Code 20.04.160, privacy, quote, building placement and window size should be selected to give consideration to the privacy of adjacent buildings. Here in front of you, you have a picture of the story poles. This is looking out of our family room. This is what we'll be looking at. I think Sammy said you might be able to put it up on the screen. The looming second-story structure begins where our house stops. This highest section faces our deck, yard, and the busiest living area of our house. It faces 160 square feet of our side windows. The front of our house only has 80 square feet of windows. The proposed design results in a harsh, imposing sightline. This is not a FEMA issue. To quote the Belvedere staff report, they recommend, quote, orienting the proposed second level towards the front of the residence. We enthusiastically agree with the staff report. The next privacy issue, windows, door, and side staircase. This is a terrible imposition on our privacy. A tree will not fix light and noise disruption from people going up and down the stair. I cannot find another side staircase between homes anywhere in Belvedere. To quote the Belvedere staff report, they recommend relocating or removing the exterior staircase on the northern side yard. We enthusiastically agree with the staff report. Loss of sunlight. We were upset last week when the architect only showed the shadow study from June, when the sun is at its highest annual position. Here's the shadow study. Part of it is June, part is December. We're going to lose a tremendous amount of sunlight. The architect neglected pointing out December. The shadow study shows the house design will eliminate most of our sunlight. Here is the complete shadow study. I can just imagine our heating bill when our sunlight is blocked. The staff report addresses this. They recommend orienting the proposed second level towards the front of the house. We heartily agree. I will leave the shadow study here for a while if anyone wants to look. We look forward to the new neighbors building a beautiful home that is acceptable to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else in the audience that wants to speak? Yes.
Hi, my name is David Ford, and my wife and I live on Corinthian Island, so we are not immediate neighbors. But Barry and Roberta asked us if we would take a look at the project because we've recently built a house, and so we've been through design review, but Tiburon design review.
Oh,
so
too bad.
Not your design review. Too bad. So before last week's meeting, we studied the plans, we walked around the neighborhood, we met with Barry and Roberta, and we looked from every angle. And I can tell you, if you have not seen their roses in the summertime, you're missing something because they're one of the most beautiful sites in all of Belvedere. But last week, I listened to the architect. I listened to you, Ms. Hart. I thought you did an excellent job. And I listened to the architect's comments about the challenge of FEMA and building on the site. And I certainly understand that. But listening tonight to Roberta and listening tonight to Barry, I think it's important that we all recognize that they're compromising a tremendous amount for this project. They've got a little house next door to them. They've enjoyed 30 years of sunlight and privacy. They're gonna have a bigger house. But I really think to the architect, I would challenge that I really think they can do a better job. One of the things we noticed as we went back to the site this week, between last week's meeting and this week's meeting, was we noticed that most of the roofs on the street are either flat or less pitched than this roof. We also noticed something that Barry just brought up. I didn't see a single side entry as I walked up and down that street. Most back doors are on the back side. You know, frankly, I think it's a great idea. Move the garage and put a back door, a true back door. That's going to be a tremendous imposition on them. When they're sitting, and again, their deck is beautiful and the roses are beautiful, but when they're sitting there and somebody, even if there's a barrier put there, when somebody goes in that side door, they're going to hear them and it's going to be an imposition and it doesn't need to be. So what I would do is challenge the architect to change things around. You've heard all of the complaints. They're pretty simple. Move the mass forward. One of the challenges that the architect mentioned was that when she was first presented the project by the homeowners, they wanted a cathedral ceiling. This is a cathedral ceiling. It's beautiful. But with FEMA, do you get a cathedral ceiling and go up the 5 or 6 feet that you have to go up? Maybe there's a compromise there and move the mass forward and maybe a flat ceiling and put the back door on the back. And I agree with the next door homeowner on the other side do clear story windows. So as they walk up the stairs, they're not looking down on the neighbors or on her side. As people are in the hot tub, they're not seeing her. So thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, I'm Jerry Butler of 25 Code Road. Actually, I have some things there, Sammy, don't you put up on the screen? I'm really here not to talk as much about the things that the past three people got up with because we only have 3 minutes. So one of the areas that we're really focused on is for all of Cove Road on that side. And if you'll see if we can get that up a little higher, this is the angle of the Boardwalk Shopping Center. Kind of move it down there a little bit, Sammy. Showing where the lines were drawn arbitrarily, and you see the fact the line is drawn directly back of the houses. So in that area, there's an alley. That alley is actually all eased to the homeowners. That seems to have been missed in all the things we've read. No one seems to address that point. And then besides the alley alone for the driving, there's another setback behind that, another easement. All of these are written and documented by the land company. And then another easement beyond that. So one of the things the homeowners all the way along Cove Road from 1 to 12 are asking for the same thing, which is that the space behind the houses and the next space over that is currently an easement, we don't get into a challenge every time something comes up. There are already things about the project. And, did you have another drawing there? Was that the only one? Yeah, okay. Well, this shows the thing I was just talking about. You see the land company over there. And so the spacing all the way over on the right side is the Boardwalk Shopping Center, land company building. The land company actually sold these houses to the homeowners. The land company moved these houses from the beach over creating Cove Road. And when they did that, there really wasn't anything on both sides. So they arbitrarily put a road in there. Then it was maybe 10 years later when they decided to build the shopping center, they had to figure out a line back and forth. So they then gave us the easement, which includes a space for the alley and a planting area, which you see brick planter there, and another space over that we plant and another space over that they plant. Now, those are all eased to Cove Road. And maybe in all our minds, that's not going to be challenged. I don't know. But if it is challenged, that puts another major problem for the people on Cove Road, including the Dalys. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Nancy, is there anyone on Zoom that wants to speak?
I see 7 attendees. I do not see anyone with a raised hand.
Okay, thank you. I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for further discussion. Commissioner Lasky.
I think this home has really been neglected and needs maintenance and updating when you go through it. Nothing's been really done to this home for years. And I really do like the cottage design of the home. But I do think the second story should be moved closer to the street to allow the neighbors at 33 for privacy and also sunlight. It is very challenging. FEMA houses are very challenging, but also in that particular zone, there's only a 5-foot setback on either side. And I also think the 2 bedrooms on the top floor, one is, I think, 159 square feet, one's 103. If you make the larger room a little bit smaller, that also will bring the top floor, even though you're meeting the requirements now. I think it will bring it in and also allow more light and space between the two homes, so that especially if you're talking about not really using them at this moment. They're for grandchildren possibly, or guests. I think that one could be made a little bit smaller. And I was looking also at the height of the main floor and also the height of the second floor. And I think that's something that needs work in bringing that height down. So when the second floor is moved forward, it's not as high, the whole thing. And even the second floor, I think, could be made a bit shorter when I'm looking at the plans. And I already made some of my and I want to second the suggestion about the clear story windows on the sides. That also really helps with, some of it's just psychological, thinking people are looking at you, but just by having higher windows, I think that solves a lot of problems, to be considerate to the neighbors. I made most of my comments last time, if anyone could hear me after everything went out, on the landscape plan. But normally the landscape plan in a project is really looked at together with the proposed housing plan. So trees are not to be cut down before the whole plan goes. So everything can be looked at together with the project, not separately. And as I mentioned, 10 trees were already taken out and the proposal is just for 3. So I think I mentioned last time, I think minimum of 4 of 24-inch boxes should be put in for screening between the properties, primarily in the backyard, because you already have 3 Japanese maple in the front yard. And the other notation, and I think that Phoebe's done it in this landscape plan, the bougainvillea was to be planted on the outside of the fence on Cove Road in order to soften that kind of stark white fence that was there. And I think that will also, work for that. And Mr. Daly also mentioned to me he was willing to replace some of the trees that got taken out on the alley, which would give screening to the shopping center. And those also need to be large. I mean, those were large beforehand, and you can look right into the shopping center now. And I think that's really important to do. So those are mainly my comments.
Thank you. Commissioner Burke, did you have a clarifying question?
Yeah, I was curious.
Let me, I have to reopen
Oh,
the public
okay.
hearings. I'm going to reopen the public hearing for a minute because Commissioner Burke has a clarifying question.
I was just curious of the applicant mentioned that there were 2 sets of revisions that already had happened where you were accommodating concerns or issues that the neighbors at 31 Cove had. Could you just tell us a little bit more about that?
33.
Yes.
Oh, 33, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we had the stair, the famous side stair. It was closer. We moved it about 5 feet further in and straightened it out. We had the air conditioning unit near them, and then we shrunk a bunch of the windows on that side. So we had a lot more fenestration. We had the AC unit near them, and we had the stairs closer to them. So we switched all of that. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll close the public hearing. You can continue.
Thank you. So I spent time at the property, also spent time at 33 Cove Road as well. I looked at the exterior of 29 Cove Road and then spent time on the road and in that part of the neighborhood just to get a better sense of the context for the house. And I do think that 31 Cove Road, as currently designed, is certainly larger than many of the original homes in Cove Road. But I also think that it's generally consistent in design and scale with many of the newer homes or the homes that have been remodeled to a large extent on Cove Road. So I think in that respect, I think it's fairly consistent with what's there. I also appreciate the design efforts to minimize the appearance of scale and bulk from the road. I think when you look at the design and you look at it from the road, I think it does fit with the character of the neighbor. It seems almost humble in some respects if you compare it to a house across the street where the 2 stories are really far forward. And so I think in that regard, it was the design is very successful. I also appreciate that the larger portion, the middle part of the house that seems to be sort of at the heart of the issue, one of the two big issues that we've been discussing. I appreciate that the setbacks are quite generous. I think they're 10 feet, which is more than is required by code to provide more privacy or more, distance or buffer between the neighbors. So I think all of that is incredibly successful, and I appreciate that and the other things that you did to accommodate the neighbors. I do think, though, however, that the house is less successful in its current design in terms of the second story. I still think there are some things that can be done to help mitigate some of the issues that have been raised. I think one option was to move things forward. I think that creates other issues for you. I think we also discussed potentially reducing the slope of the roof of that second story. I think you shared that, the house is primarily for the two of you and the main floor is what's most important to you. And so maybe there are other things you can do to reduce the scale of that second story to better mitigate some of the issues that it's creating for the neighbors. I mean, all of the windows on that second story, I think we've all discussed either in our questions and have come up, and there also seems to be a willingness to entertain changing those to clear story on the south side and the north side, or doing something to reduce that privacy issue that they're creating. And so I'd like to see that happen. And I'm glad that those are already being considered. We also talked a little bit about the, well, let me go to the stairs next, because that's probably the other. So there's the second story, and then the stairs tend to also rise to the top of the list of concerns for the neighborhood. And I wonder if those could just be made internal in their current configuration. I think that would probably create a square footage issue, but I would be supportive of variance for that square footage if it were to turn those exterior stairs into internal stairs, even if they were to be in the same location, which would address the concerns of the neighbor by changing them to internal. And then there were the landscaping issues that I think everyone has already brought up in terms of just replanting the trees that were removed in the alley. I think if you do put those mature trees that you were discussing, I think actually that would help with the screening from the shopping center, as well as that cherry tree that was inadvertently removed. That would provide additional screening, and then the trees that we talked about in between the 31 and 33 to create additional privacy. So those are my comments.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Hart?
I think last time I expressed most of my concerns and I followed our planning staff in their bullet points about relocating the upstairs and planting additional mature trees, relocating the stairs, and orienting the proposed second level forward to the street. And I think today, again, I feel that I believe that with an experienced and knowledgeable architect as this firm is, that you can come up with something that will find a better solution for the size of the home you are planning to build and the exposure to the neighbors. I think you've overwhelmingly have heard that the most impacted neighbors are really upset. The FEMA restrictions, of course, don't help in any way, but I think with the issues about lowering the pitch on the roof, putting the outdoors or outside staircases within the walls, maybe shave off some feet off the primary bedroom. I think you can play with that downstairs area quite a lot. You have a fairly large, I don't know if to call it a hallway or something, but that leads into the primary bedroom that is just a fairly large hallway that could be reconfigured to accommodate a laundry room slightly differently, and with that, maybe have a direct access from the garage into the house. Maybe that would, I don't really know what more to say than I think that you need to take this back to the drawing board and try to listen to what the neighbors have said and what we have said up here on the dais, and try to address the four major points of the neighbors and the commission, because I can not at this point, with this much objection to the proposal, I can really not make the findings for this project.
Thank you. So I also have visited both the site and from 33 Cove, and also from Karina's home, 29, I think. And I'd like to say FEMA has posed an issue in almost any second-story house that's been built on the lagoon. And even though that side of Cove Road is not on the lagoon, it's in the lagoon zone. So it faces the same issue that a house on the lagoon has. And with the second story, and especially, I think this is the highest raised height I've seen in my time on the commission, that it poses unusual concerns. And the concerns that the McMullins and Karina have represented today on privacy and windows is usually something that we do deal with on the lagoon, and we do deal with them by using clear stories, because it takes away that feeling that anybody can, stare down on you, and it allows the neighbors to have a feeling of some privacy. So I think those concerns can be addressed. I think that I agree with everything that my fellow commissioners have stated. The other thing is that I think I would like to see the fence in a natural wood versus the white, just because I think it would blend into the street front better. If this is continued, I'd also like to see on the plans the designated second parking that's not on the plans, since we have to have 2-car parking. And then I want to just say that I'd like to see also on the landscape plans the plantings in the easement. And I'm also I have a couple questions that maybe can get answered or worked out if you decide to come back, is the plantings on the easement, like on the side where your fence is. So I've walked up and down that alley, and everybody treats that area a little bit different. So I don't know how far you can go from your property line into that easement with plantings. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Yeah, so that's kind of a question, like how much of that easement area do you get to claim versus it being left open as the easement? So I'd like to, I've seen some documentation on the easement, but I'd like to make sure that, we are not creating a problem going down the road that we approve something that maybe we really shouldn't have. So I know the plantings on the other side have to go back in, because that's actually in an easement that I read, that is a planting strip. But I'm also concerned a little bit about the easement and the side where the property is and how much you can go out into that easement. So with that, I guess I'd like to ask if you'd like to continue this to a future meeting or
Absolutely.
have a vote.
Yes, please.
Okay. Sammy, was this noticed for the March meeting? So you were already noticed because of the disruption last month. I instructed them to notice for the March meeting, just in case we couldn't get this meeting in. So you are on schedule for the March meeting.
I believe we're gonna have problems with story polls and everything else. I think it's,
Uh,
isn't it 20 days and we're past 20 days, so it has to be the April meeting.
Okay, all right,
The way
sorry.
You guys set up the 20
Okay.
days for story polls.
Okay, sorry, I was trying to save you a
Me
month.
too. We're ready to go, but
Yeah.
we gotta get the story polls up.
Okay, all right, thank you very much. So may I have a motion to continue this to the April meeting, please? Turn yourself on.
I move to continue 31 Cove Road to the April 2022 meeting.
Second,
Second,
roll call, please.
Commissioner Hart,
yes.
Commissioner Burke,
Yes.
Commissioner Lasky,
Yes.
Chair Carpet,
Yes.
4-0. Three absent.
With that, can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. You take home everything again, huh?